What if everything you've been told about the most famous monuments in human history was a lie? Picture this. It's 1798. Napoleon Bonaparte stands before the Great Pyramid of Giza, his armies stretching across the Egyptian desert like shadows against the setting sun. As he gazes up at the 2.5 million-ton monument towering above him, he whispers to his generals words that would echo through history. Soldiers, from the summit of these pyramids, 40 centuries looked down upon you. But what Napoleon didn't know, what the world still refuses to acknowledge, is that those 40 centuries might be hiding the greatest conspiracy in human history. Tonight, we're going to uncover a cover-up so massive, so carefully orchestrated, that it has fooled archaeologists, historians, and governments for over 2,000 years. We're going to reveal the shocking truth about who really built the pyramids and why the establishment will do anything to keep you from knowing. The story they want you to believe is simple, neat, convenient. Around 2580 BCE, during Egypt's 4th dynasty, Pharaoh Khufu decided he wanted the ultimate tomb. So, according to mainstream archaeology, he commanded thousands of willing workers. Not slaves, they're quick to remind us, to quarry, transport, and precisely place over 2 million limestone blocks, each weighing between 2 and 15 tons. These workers, we're told, used nothing but copper tools, wooden ramps, and raw human determination. No advanced machinery. No sophisticated engineering beyond what you'd expect from a Bronze Age civilization. Just muscle and willpower. And somehow, these ancient laborers achieved mathematical and architectural precision that would challenge our best modern engineers. But here's where the official story starts to crack like ancient papyrus in the desert sun. Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University, made a discovery in the early 1990s that sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. While examining the Great Sphinx, the pyramid complex's guardian, he found something that shouldn't exist. Water erosion patterns. Not the wind erosion you'd expect from millennia of desert storms. Water erosion. Deep, vertical grooves carved by thousands of years of heavy rainfall. But here's the problem. Egypt's climate has been arid for over 4,000 years. The last time the Giza Plateau experienced that kind of sustained rainfall was between 10,000 and 5,000 BCE. Thousands of years before the pyramids were supposedly built. When Dr. Schoch presented his findings, the archaeological establishment didn't thank him for his groundbreaking research. They attacked him viciously. His funding was threatened, his reputation questioned. Conference invitations mysteriously stopped arriving. Because his discovery suggested something terrifying to mainstream archaeology, that the Sphinx and possibly the pyramids themselves are far, far older than anyone wants to admit. But the water erosion patterns are just the beginning. As we dig deeper into this ancient mystery, we'll discover evidence so compelling, so undeniable, that it will force you to question everything you thought you knew about human civilization. Evidence of precision that defies explanation. Tools that shouldn't exist. Knowledge that was supposedly impossible. And a systematic cover-up that reaches the highest levels of academic and political power. So buckle in, because we're about to journey back to an Egypt that history books refuse to acknowledge. An Egypt where the impossible was routine, where the laws of physics seemed negotiable, and where the true builders of the pyramids possessed secrets that would revolutionize our understanding of human potential. Act 2. The impossible precision. Let's start with something that should be simple to explain, but isn't. The Great Pyramid of Giza is aligned to true north with an accuracy of just 3/60th of a degree. That's more precise than the Paris Observatory, built in the 17th century with the best instruments of the age. But how does a Bronze Age civilization achieve this level of precision without compasses, without modern surveying equipment, without even accurate maps of the Earth? The mainstream explanation? They use the stars. Really? Let's think about that for a moment. To align a structure weighing over 6 million tons to true north using only stellar observation, you need to account for atmospheric refraction, stellar aberration, and the precession of Earth's axis. You need mathematical knowledge that supposedly wouldn't be developed for another 2,000 years. But the precision doesn't stop there. It gets stranger, much stranger. The pyramid's base perimeter divided by its height equals pi, 3.14159, accurate to 15 decimal places. The builders somehow encoded one of mathematics' most important constants into a structure built supposedly thousands of years before pi was officially discovered. And then there's the golden ratio. The chamber dimensions, the slant height, even the relationship between the pyramid's height and the Earth's polar radius, all incorporate phi, the golden ratio that wouldn't be formally recognized until ancient Greece. Christopher Dunn, a precision machinist with decades of experience in aerospace manufacturing, spent years analyzing the pyramid's interior. What he found defied everything he knew about ancient construction techniques. The granite blocks in the king's chamber are fitted together with tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. The corners are perfectly square. The surfaces are machined smooth, not carved, not chiseled, but machined with precision that rivals modern manufacturing. Dunn examined the granite with high-powered magnification and found tool marks that could only be created by diamond-tipped cutting instruments rotating at speeds of over 30,000 RPM. Tools that officially didn't exist until the 20th century. But perhaps the most disturbing evidence comes from the transportation problem. The official story claims that massive stone blocks were quarried hundreds of miles away in Aswan, loaded onto barges, floated down the Nile, then somehow moved across the desert and lifted into precise positions. Let's do the math. The heaviest blocks in the king's chamber weigh approximately 80 tons. To move an 80-ton block, even with modern equipment, requires massive cranes, specialized transport vehicles, and carefully prepared roadways. The ancient Egyptians, we're told, used copper tools, wooden levers, and rope. Copper, a metal so soft you can scratch it with your fingernail, somehow cut and shaped granite, one of the hardest stones on Earth. Wooden levers somehow multiplied human strength enough to position multi-ton blocks with millimeter precision hundreds of feet above ground level. Recent surveys using ground-penetrating radar have revealed that the Great Pyramid isn't just precisely built, it's perfectly balanced. The monument's weight distribution is so exact that despite sitting on an irregular limestone plateau for over 4,000 years, it shows no signs of settling or structural stress. This isn't just advanced engineering. This is impossible engineering. Engineering that suggests the builders possessed knowledge of materials science, structural dynamics, and geological surveying that wouldn't be rediscovered until the modern era. But if the ancient Egyptians didn't possess this knowledge, if they couldn't possibly have built the pyramids with the tools and techniques attributed to them, then who did? The answer to that question will challenge everything you believe about human history. Because as we're about to discover, the evidence points to builders who possess technology so advanced, so sophisticated, that even today we struggle to understand how they achieved what they did. Cairo, 1837. Colonel Richard William Howard Vyse, a British Army officer and amateur archaeologist, is running out of time. His funding is nearly depleted. His expedition team is falling apart, and he's facing the humiliation of returning to England empty-handed. Vyse had come to Egypt with grand ambitions, to make discoveries that would cement his place in history alongside the great archaeological pioneers. But months of excavation around the Giza complex had yielded nothing but frustration. Then, on a sweltering July night, everything changed. Vyse claimed to have discovered hieroglyphic inscriptions inside the Great Pyramid, the only markings ever found within the structure. These inscriptions, he announced, proved conclusively that Pharaoh Khufu had built the monument. The archaeological community celebrated. Finally, hard evidence connecting the Great Pyramid to the Fourth Dynasty. Vyse returned to England a hero, his reputation secure. But there was a problem that wouldn't surface for another century and a half. In 1983, German archaeologist Rainer Stadelmann made a startling discovery while reviewing Vyse's original expedition notes. The hieroglyphic inscriptions that Vyse had allegedly found were painted in red ochre, a common pigment used by 19th century forgers. More damning still, the hieroglyphics contained a critical error. The inscriptions spelled Khufu's name using a variant that wasn't used until centuries after the pyramid was supposedly built. It was like finding a reference to ye old shop in an authentic medieval document, an anachronism that revealed the forgery. Stadelman's findings suggested the unthinkable, that Colonel Weiss had fabricated the evidence, that the only proof connecting the Great Pyramid to Khufu was a Victorian-era hoax. But here's where the story gets truly sinister. When Stadelman attempted to publish his findings, he encountered resistance from every major archaeological journal. His research was rejected, his methodology questioned, his conclusions dismissed without proper peer review. Why? Because accepting Stadelman's evidence would mean acknowledging that the foundational proof of pyramid construction, the evidence every textbook cited, was fraudulent. It would mean admitting that we have no idea who built the pyramids. The pattern of suppression extends far beyond Stadelman's case. Dr. Robert Schoch's water erosion research systematically excluded from mainstream publications. Christopher Dunn's precision machining evidence ignored by archaeological conferences. Independent researchers presenting alternative theories. Their funding mysteriously dries up. Their academic positions become restructured. Their findings buried in obscure journals that nobody reads. But why? Why would the archaeological establishment work so hard to suppress evidence that challenges the official narrative? The answer lies in what that evidence suggests. If the pyramids weren't built by ancient Egyptians using primitive technology, if they're thousands of years older than claimed, if they demonstrate impossible levels of precision and engineering sophistication, then everything we know about human history is wrong. Think about the implications. If an advanced civilization existed in prehistoric times, advanced enough to build monuments that we struggle to replicate today, then what happened to them? Where did their technology go? Why don't we find their cities, their machines, their written records? And if such a civilization existed and then vanished, what does that say about the fragility of our own technological society? These are questions that powerful institutions, universities, governments, religious organizations, don't want us asking, because the answers might fundamentally challenge their authority, their version of human progress, their control over the narrative of civilization itself. But the evidence doesn't lie. And as we dig deeper into the mystery of the pyramid's true builders, we'll uncover proof so compelling, so undeniable, that even the most determined skeptic will be forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. We are not the first advanced civilization on this planet, and we may not be the last. The story begins to crystallize when we look beyond Egypt, beyond individual monuments, and examine the global pattern of impossible ancient achievements. What emerges is evidence of a worldwide civilization, a civilization that possessed advanced technology, sophisticated engineering knowledge, and scientific understanding that wouldn't be rediscovered until the modern era. Graham Hancock, one of the world's most thorough investigators of ancient mysteries, has spent decades mapping this lost civilization. His research reveals a stunning pattern. Across the globe, at sites separated by thousands of miles and supposedly built by cultures that never contacted each other, we find identical construction techniques, identical mathematical principles, identical astronomical alignments. The precision stone cutting at Sacsayhuaman in Peru matches the precision at Giza in Egypt. The astronomical alignments at Angkor Wat in Cambodia mirror those at Stonehenge in England. The megalithic construction techniques at Easter Island echo those at Baalbek in Lebanon. These similarities can't be explained by coincidence or parallel development. They suggest contact, coordination, and shared knowledge across vast distances during supposedly primitive times. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe flying machines called vimanas, powered by mysterious energy sources and capable of traveling vast distances. The Mahabharata, an ancient Indian epic, contains detailed descriptions of weapons that sound remarkably like nuclear devices, weapons that could destroy entire armies and leave the earth cursed for years. In 1922, archaeologist Sir John Marshall made a discovery in the Indus Valley that shattered conventional understanding of ancient civilization. The city of Harappa revealed urban planning that wouldn't be seen again until the modern era. Sophisticated sewage systems, running water, standardized weights and measures, and evidence of a complex trade network spanning thousands of miles. But Harappa showed signs of sudden, catastrophic destruction. Streets littered with skeletons, radioactivity levels that remain elevated today, vitrified stones that could only be created by temperatures exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius. Something had destroyed this advanced civilization completely and utterly. The pattern repeats across the ancient world. Advanced cities suddenly abandoned. Sophisticated civilizations vanishing without explanation. Knowledge that took centuries to develop disappearing overnight. The Younger Dryas period, approximately 12,800 years ago, marks a dramatic climate catastrophe that ended the last ice age. Temperatures plummeted, sea levels rose by over 400 feet, and countless species went extinct. But mounting evidence suggests this wasn't just a natural climate change. Core samples from ice sheets show elevated levels of rare Earth elements, elements that are thrown into the atmosphere by cosmic impacts. Geological surveys reveal a layer of black sediment across North America consistent with continent-wide wildfires. Ancient flood myths from cultures worldwide describe the same catastrophic event. A comet impact, multiple impacts, a cosmic catastrophe that reshaped the Earth's surface and wiped out advanced civilizations that had taken millennia to develop. The survivors, the remnants of this lost civilization, became the gods of later cultures. The knowledge they preserved became the basis for myths and legends. Their advanced technology, incomprehensible to primitive post-catastrophe societies, was attributed to divine intervention. This explains the impossible precision of the pyramids. They weren't built by Bronze Age Egyptians using primitive tools. They were built by survivors of an advanced civilization using technology that we're only beginning to rediscover. But if such a civilization existed, if they possessed technology that could move mountains and generate tremendous power, if they reached heights of achievement that we're only now approaching, and if they were completely destroyed by forces beyond their control, what does that tell us about our own future? The cover-up isn't just about protecting academic reputations or maintaining historical narratives. It's about something much more dangerous, something that threatens the very foundation of our modern worldview. Because if we accept that an advanced civilization once existed and was completely destroyed, we're forced to confront an uncomfortable question. Could it happen again? Dr. Robert Schoch's research reveals a pattern that should terrify us. His geological analysis suggests that major catastrophes capable of destroying entire civilizations, occur with disturbing regularity. Every 12,000 to 13,000 years, the Earth experiences what scientists call cosmic episodes, periods of increased meteorite and comet activity that coincide with dramatic climate changes and mass extinctions. The last such episode, approximately 12,800 years ago, the Younger Dryas event that may have destroyed our predecessor civilization. We're now approaching the next cycle. NASA's Near-Earth Object Program has identified thousands of potentially hazardous asteroids and comets whose orbits intersect with Earth's path. The Tunguska event of 1908, which flattened 800 square miles of Siberian forest, was caused by an object estimated to be only 120 feet across. The object that may have ended the last ice age was potentially thousands of times larger. But cosmic catastrophes aren't the only threat. Climate change, nuclear proliferation, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering. Our own advanced technology has created risks that could destroy civilization as effectively as any comet impact. And here's the truly chilling parallel. Ancient texts describe the lost civilization as being destroyed partly by their own hubris, their own dangerous technologies, their own failure to heed warning signs. The Sanskrit epics describe Vimanas, flying machines, crashing from the sky when their power sources failed. They tell of weapons so powerful that their creators lost control of them. They speak of a civilization that grew so confident in its technology that it ignored the cosmic cycles that govern planetary stability. Sound familiar? This is why the establishment works so hard to suppress evidence of advanced prehistoric civilizations. Not because the evidence threatens archaeology textbooks, but because it threatens our fundamental assumptions about progress, about stability, about the permanence of our technological society. If civilization has risen and fallen before, if even advanced societies are vulnerable to cosmic forces and their own technological overreach, then our modern world, for all its seeming sophistication, might be far more fragile than we dare acknowledge. The pyramid builders left us a message encoded in stone, mathematical constants, astronomical alignments, precision that demonstrates their mastery of forces we barely understand. They built their monuments to survive whatever catastrophe destroyed them, to serve as proof that advanced civilization once existed on Earth. They succeeded. The pyramids still stand, still challenge our understanding, still whisper their secrets to anyone willing to listen. But we're not listening. We're too busy maintaining comfortable lies, protecting institutional power, and ignoring evidence that doesn't fit our predetermined narratives. Meanwhile, the cosmic clock continues ticking. The same forces that may have destroyed our predecessors continue operating. The same cycles that govern planetary catastrophes continue turning. And our own civilization, despite all its technological marvels, despite all its apparent permanence, grows more vulnerable every day to the same forces that have shaped human history for millennia. The pyramids still stand on the Giza Plateau, their secrets intact, their message waiting. They've survived 4 millennia of wind and sand, conquest and construction, archaeological investigation and institutional denial. They're waiting for us to ask the right questions. They're waiting for us to challenge the comfortable lies. They're waiting for us to acknowledge that we are not the first chapter of human civilization, but we might be the last. What do you think happened to the civilization that built the pyramids? And more importantly, could it happen to us? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more hidden histories that challenge everything you thought you knew. And remember, the truth is always more incredible than the lies we tell ourselves to